Welcome to Bright Ideas, the podcast for leaders building companies and cultures that scale. I'm your host, Desiree B. Sharp, keynote speaker and CEO of Savix, the AI-powered subscription management platform for small business. If you're ready for unfiltered insights and strategies for building empowered teams and resilient businesses, you're in the right place. This is Bright Ideas, where leadership gets personal. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Bright Ideas podcast, and thank you so much for tuning in to this latest Bright Bite episode. I'm so excited to be here, and I've got a lot of exciting updates to share with you today, so be sure to listen to the end for the special announcement that I have to share with you. But before we dive into the content for today, I want to remind you that earlier this month on February 3rd, we released a powerful guest episode to kick off Black History Month featuring the Archie Jones Jr. I say the. Once you listen to the episode, you'll know why I introduced him that way. But Archie is a Harvard Business School professor, investor, and the founder of Next Gen Coach Network, and just an all-around powerhouse. And honestly, when I think about that conversation, what struck me most about my chat with Archie was how holistic his definition of leadership is. He talked about how he doesn't see leadership as a title or really even a skill. He sees it as a form of capital. During that conversation, he so eloquently walked us through the differences between financial, social, and experiential capital, and explained how leadership capital is really the force that attracts and multiplies all three of those categories. He also unpacked his 5 C's of leadership capital, which is essentially the framework that he uses to help founders and executives grow into confident, high-impact leaders. I won't go into the 5 C's here because I'm going to save that for the episode. So if you're interested in hearing more about that framework, definitely go give it a listen. But there were so many valuable insights shared in that conversation. But what really stood out to me that I'm still kind of pondering on was his perspective on leadership transitions, specifically how to pivot from a safe career into your zone of genius. Now, if you're not familiar with that concept, zone of genius, it was actually created by Gay Hendricks, who is the author of one of my favorite books, The Big Leap. I've read that book maybe 3 times. I like to read it when I'm about to do something really scary, nerve-wracking, making some type of big pivot in my career. It's easily one of my favorite leadership books. But Archie shared his own experience transitioning from a career as a CFO into the coaching profession and how to work through the mindset roadblocks that show up when making career-defining moves like that, or like the one that he shared. Those pivots can really feel terrifying in the moment especially if you're more seasoned in your career, you have a family, you got a mortgage to pay, the stakes are higher. It's a lot different at that stage in life as opposed to when you're a young 20-something. But those moves are often the very thing that propels you closer to the work that truly leverages your natural talents and purpose. That conversation definitely sparked a moment of reflection for me personally. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, then you probably have a little bit of an understanding of my background and how I got here. But when I was speaking to Archie, I was thinking about all the pivots that I've made throughout my career. At 24, I pivoted from corporate communications into talent acquisition when I worked in corporate America. At 26, I left the corporate world entirely to start my first business, which was a career coaching consultancy. At 28, I pivoted again into enterprise consulting, specializing in people and culture programs. And now here I am at 33, building an AI-enabled fintech company. For a long time,
I felt really insecure about how many career transitions I've made throughout my career, but today I see them as part of my competitive advantage. With each pivot that I made, it was a very intentional decision to pivot. It was a very well thought out decisions that I prayed on and felt like God had called me to make those pivots. And as a result, they've made me a more well rounded, intuitive businesswoman and leader. So, if you haven't listened to our latest guest interview, it's called How Great Leaders Build Leadership Capital featuring R.T. Jones Jr. I highly recommend giving it a listen. Now, if you've been following my journey, you know that my startup, Savix, was born out of a very personal and costly experience with subscription bloat. So while dissolving my last company, my people and culture consulting firm, in July of last year, I discovered that I had been charged over $800 in surprise auto renewals for software tools I had not used in months, and I genuinely thought that I had canceled them. If you run a business, there's a good chance you've experienced something similar. Maybe you can recall a time you were reviewing your bank statements or digging into a P&L or cleaning out your email inbox, and suddenly you realize you're paying for dozens of tools. And realistically, you're probably only using half of those tools. And of that half, you might only be using 30% of the available functionality for the tools. And this becomes even more frustrating when you're offboarding employees. So when you become a bit of a larger company, you have employees, you have contractors, maybe you run a consulting firm and you do a lot of project-based work. I see this show up in those types of businesses as well. But it's incredibly easy to forget to cancel a license, and it takes far too much time to assess what tools are actually being used. Small and growing businesses are especially vulnerable to this kind of expense creep because there simply aren't enough tools designed to manage SaaS spend for growing SMBs, specifically the smaller SMBs that are under $20 million in annual recurring revenue. And that's honestly surprising to me because when you think about the data, the statistical data, SMBs collectively lose an estimated $120 billion every year due to missed cancellations, surprise price increases, and bloated subscriptions. It's a really big problem that I don't think is being talked about enough. And in my case, the business I was dissolving was a micro business. It was a small micro business that was under $1 million in revenue. And it still took me 3 hours to chase down vendors, and I was only able to recover about 60% of the loss. For larger businesses or companies experiencing growth, SaaS management can easily turn into a full-time job. I actually interviewed So last year I did a round of customer discovery interviews just to dig into this problem a little bit deeper with businesses across different industries, sizes, just to understand how they were managing SaaS. And I interviewed a CMO at a $1.5 million higher education company who manages over 80 software tools. And he told me that he has to dedicate one full week every quarter just to audit their tech stack. When you do the math, that's an entire month each year spent trying to figure out what tools they have, how much they cost, and whether they're still worth it, and if better alternatives exist. And then also whether the team is even using them. It's a lot. And honestly, what C-level leader has the time or desire to do that? For me, that is low energy work. That is not the best use of my time as a leader, but it's hugely important when it comes to effectively managing your operating spend. My experience with SaaS sprawl wasn't just a financial inconvenience. It was draining. And honestly, it exposed a systemic gap that small and mid-sized businesses face every single day. We're operating in an era where the average SMB manages anywhere between 50 to 100 software tools, yet most of those businesses still rely on manual spreadsheets to track renewals, contracts, and compliance. And this isn't because operators are careless. I am certainly not a careless founder or leader. I never have been. I just like to build things. And I get so engulfed in the building and the work that it's easy for these things to slip through the cracks when you don't have the right systems and resources. So, really, it's because the systems designed to solve this problem simply don't exist yet for smaller SMBs. But there's also another layer to this, and it might be the most important layer, and that's benchmarking. So, through my research, I've learned that many SMB leaders have no real visibility into what normal SaaS spend or tool count looks like for a business their size. They don't know if they're paying market rates or if they're being taken advantage of by vendors. And it's a widespread issue. There's simply not enough visibility into SaaS spend, SaaS pricing for businesses that are larger that require, an account executive, those sorts of relationships to manage their relationship with the vendor. So that's why I created the Savix National SMB Benchmarking Initiative. This initiative is designed to give leaders real peer-to-peer data so they can understand their SaaS spend with clarity and confidence. We've built a highly intuitive, community-driven survey that only takes 3 to 5 minutes to complete. I'm so excited about it because when I say it's highly intuitive, it's so cool. It's very actionable. It's just exciting, and it's going to deliver a lot of value to people who participate. But once you complete the survey, you'll receive your personalized Savix Spend Clarity Score, which is a proprietary scoring system that we've created that gives you a snapshot of how clearly your business understands and manages its SaaS spend. You'll also receive access to a personalized dashboard that automatically updates as more businesses complete the survey. How cool is that? So you could go through, take the survey, get your Savix Spend Clarity Score, see your dashboard. If you decide to take action on that information, on the insights that you receive in your dashboard, you can do that and then go back and take the survey again in 30 days to see if your score improves. It's really amazing, and I'm so excited to share it with everybody. So this is really like a value-packed, completely free resource that is designed to help you identify your strengths and opportunities using real benchmarks from SMBs across the country. When you complete the survey, you will also be entered into a drawing to win a free Plod AI note taker. So Plod note takers they're essentially a portable tool that lets you capture notes from virtual or in-person meetings, and it retails for about $160. It's especially useful if you have a meeting-heavy schedule and you want something that you can easily take on the go. So we will enter everyone who completes the survey into the drawing to win a free Plod AI note taker. So if you've been eyeballing them, or if it sounds interesting to you, then you can throw your hat in the ring by just sharing 3 to 5 minutes of your time to contribute to our benchmarking initiative. So this survey, it launches the same week that this episode is going to drop, and we will make sure that we include the link in the show notes. But as always, the best way to receive any updates that come out about the podcast, about me, about Savix, product updates, that sort of thing, the best way to be in the know is to make sure you're on my email list. My email list is always the first to know about any special announcements, any special offers, anything cool. So if you're anything cool that's going on in my world, so if you're interested in following my journey and joining my community and being a part of all the exciting things that I'm building, make sure that you're on the email list. You can easily join by going to savix.ai. That's the official website for Savix, where you'll see the waitlist landing page. But you can also go to my website, DesireeBSharp.com. It's actually brand new. It's been given a little bit of a facelift. So you can go to DesireeBSharp.com. We'll include that link in the show notes. You'll also be able to join my email list through the website as well. So going back to the initiative, this is only as valuable as the leaders who participate in it. So if you decide to partake, please share it with other SMB leaders in your network. It's completely industry agnostic, and it's ideal for CEOs, founders, COOs, CFOs, or anyone responsible for managing SaaS in a business doing roughly $500,000 up to $20 million in annual recurring revenue. That's the stage where SaaS management starts to become a real time and money drain, is what I'm seeing. So if you have any questions about the survey, if you want to share your results or you have questions about your results or notice something interesting in the insights that you're given, please feel free to email me at Desiree@savix.ai. That's Desiree@savix, SAVVIX.ai, or DM me on LinkedIn at /Desiree B Sharp. I love to hear from people who listen to the podcast. And of course, I would absolutely love to hear from anyone who participates in the survey, finds it interesting, and would like to share that feedback with me. As a founder building a startup company, a fintech company from scratch, feedback is more valuable than you can imagine. It's completely free. It only costs you a couple minutes of your time. So please don't be shy. I welcome the communication. And I hope to hear from you after you take the survey. As you know, the Bright Ideas podcast exists to serve leaders who are building impactful businesses and resilient teams while striving to be good humans in the process. And strong leadership often requires us to check our egos at the door and resist the urge to make decisions based on assumptions. Great leaders seek feedback, they leverage peer insight, and use data to inform decisions, especially when it comes to operating spend. Benchmarking isn't just a finance tactic. It's really a leadership principle. And that's really why I'm launching the Savix National SMB Benchmarking Initiative. Not because leaders need more software, but because leadership today requires clearer, more digestible reference points that don't add to our cognitive load. So make sure you click the link in the show notes to take the survey and receive your personal dashboard and Savix Spend Clarity Score, including a clear breakdown of where you have visibility, where you don't, and where money might be leaking. I'm really excited for people to dig into this and share more with me about how they're managing SaaS spend and what they're doing to make sure they're protecting their profits. We work hard for our profits as business owners, and so they deserve to be protected. Thank you so much for joining me today on this Bright Bite episode. I absolutely love sharing this space with you. It brings me so much joy. And I am deeply appreciative of the continued support of the Bright Ideas platform. Thank you again. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's Bright Bite. If today's message hit close to home, if it felt like I was putting words to something you've been carrying or working through, that's exactly the heart of my signature keynote, Leading Through Life Seasons. It's designed for leaders and teams navigating growth, change, or those seasons when everything feels like a lot all at once. If you're hosting a team retreat, offsite, or company event and want to bring this conversation into the room, visit DesireeBSharp.com to book me to speak. Until next time, be bold, be resilient, be sharp. I'm Desiree B. Sharp.